Hey everybody, welcome back to the homestead. It's June 21st today, so the summer solstice, somewhere between yesterday and today. Longest day of the year, which here in central Ontario, Canada means how many? Well, I'm up at 4 and it gets light shortly after that. Starts lightening up at least. Sunrise is around, what, 5:15, something like that. And dark is around 10 o'clock at night. So long days. Long growing days and warmer weather. The last frost was mid-May, I think it was, maybe even early May, which is not typical. Usually a safe planting date would be June 1st, and around June 6th, 7th, 8th or something like that, we had some temperatures that were pretty close to freezing. But here on this hill, we don't typically get a frost unless it's actually at 0 Celsius or 32 Fahrenheit. So escaped the damage that would come from a late frost, especially planting these warm weather crops. If you look around the garden here, most of it is actually chicken feed, which is grains, and a lot of these grains are warm weather grains from like Africa. Sorghum, millet, sunflowers are native to North America, but still like the warmer weather. Buckwheat, corn, what else? Corn, millet, sorghum, milo, amaranth. These are all crops that like the heat, so we're just really going to start getting into high production with those now. So I've been weeding, just making sure there's room for them. I haven't mulched between the rows, which I typically either do or I have a solid mulch down, but because I direct seeded these tiny seeds, I actually cleaned up the bed so that there was no thick bark or wood chip or grass layer or even hay layer on the soil surface, which I don't like doing that. So I don't like having the soil exposed, especially like I keep mentioning how dry it is. It being raised beds especially, but it's also sandy, so the water and the nutrients flush right through. So I typically like to have a thick layer of mulch on top of these fine little seeds. Direct seeding like that, even though they're in rows, I'd like the seed to come up first and then I mulch. But in this case, what I've also done is interplanted with peas and a couple of beans, but basically leftover seed from previous years or from stuff I ordered earlier this year before I knew what I was doing with the garden. So that those peas and beans will come up. I'll kill them so that the nitrogen that's starting to get fixated or fixed by the bacteria in the roots actually releases and allows the plants, especially the high feeding plants, nitrogen hungry plants like the corn, to utilize that nitrogen. So that allows me to not use fertilizer with these, like I said, very hungry crops. Summer solstice is a noteworthy day or period or time of year for fruit tree pruning. There's 2 times a year that I prune my trees, one in the winter when they're dormant, and then I'll take a tree like this and try to prune it for shape. So by opening it up, pruning off the inner branches, the ones that are growing in the center, and the ones that are like water sprouts, they grow up basically straight vertical from an inside position on a branch. I cut all those off in the winter and just kind of open it up when you can see what it looks like without leaves. At this time of year, what I'm doing is pruning for reduced vigor, so I'm trying to bring the trees down in size. I don't want this. This is my biggest fruit tree by far. I don't want it to be that tall and out of reach. So I need to get up, extend this ladder a little bit more. I should be able to do it actually in step ladder mode and prune those top branches. I don't mind this one getting tall because it's behind the shed, and as long as I keep it from getting past the peak of the shed where the solar panels are, it's not going to impact anything like the roof or the solar gain, electricity generation from the shed. So anyway, yeah, I don't mind this one being the tallest, biggest one. There'll be fruit that I can't reach, but that'll just drop to the ground and feed either the wildlife or the chickens or deer if I throw it over the fence, or bugs, whatever. I don't mind sharing. Everything we can reach, we will. I forget what kind of plum it is. It might be a toka, and this will be the first year for production. A lot of our trees, it's the first year, and it's the first year that we've allowed the fruit to be produced. The trees are so small typically throughout the property that I just took the fruit off so that it could put the energy into growth and root growth, and it paid off. This year they're doing really well. So earlier in the day, before the rain started, I ran around and got pretty much all of the trees pruned on this property, on this homestead. So the orchard here, it's all plant-based or fruit production throughout the property. So this is the 8.5 acre section of the homestead. So I've got the vegetable garden here, the chicken coop, orchard, scattered orchard but more berry section over there. Got my maple sugar grove right there. Then I got my workshop and the future buildings, other buildings around the workshop up on that section, and then my deer hunting spot basically just over the hill on the other side of the workshop. And then further down that hill and back is my main bear hunting spot. So it's really, and turkey hunting all around basically. In fact, the turkeys, part of this deer fence, what it's doing is keeping the turkeys out too, because they get in here and they can do a fair bit of damage. They're mostly eating bugs, but they can do some scratching or eat some of the vegetation as well. Bears, same thing. I've had 2 bear come right up to the garden. They actually didn't come into the garden because they were distracted by other smells, and I was able to harvest one of them for the freezer. And deer are always coming, well, they filter by here all the time. I film them all the time right here around the garden and around the workshop, and I hunt around the workshop. So this 8.5 acres of the homestead is extremely productive. It basically can provide pretty much all of our food. In fact, last year we did grow enough calories and harvested enough calories mainly from the property itself. Potatoes, carrots, deer, turkey, bear, small game like grouse, squirrels, maple sugar, mushrooms, tons of acorns. In fact, I need to prune back some of these oak trees here. I've got 2 wells on this property, one just down through here that's about 225 feet deep, I think it is, and really high production of water. I think that one is at 8 or 12 gallons per minute. And then the main one down here that we use is 50 feet deep, that I've got a simple pump on it for pumping the water by hand, but also a electric pump. I'll show you how actually I power that well, the Jackery 240 volt system with the 2 units put together. Future video. So all the drinking water. So basically this property can provide all of our sustenance and firewood for heat for the family of 4. So I know a lot of people, especially a lot of the younger guys that watch this channel, if they still do, don't like to see the gardening, not really into gardening, especially when I formalize it, like make it a lot more organized like this, instead of just throwing some stuff in the bush like I have around the cabin. But I don't know, it's all nature to me. I just love getting my hands dirty. I've always loved gardening. I've always loved growing things and harvesting and raising, foraging and fishing, hunting, all that kind of stuff. I've always loved doing that. And to me, getting your hands in the soil and growing your own food is like a key component of self-reliance and a significant part of nature. I've got this isolated situation here where there's no cropland anywhere nearby. It's surrounded completely by forest. So no glyphosate in the soil. There's no chemicals or herbicides or fungicides or pesticides being blown in from surrounding fields. There just isn't any of that here. So I'm kind of isolated so I can protect my ecosystem and all the flora and fauna here. Yeah, create biodiversity as well as a sort of a safe haven for a lot of the wildlife. A lot of birds, like the owls are one thing, but we got everything here. Every kind of bird you can imagine. Lots of nesting birds right on the property. The plants like the comfrey and the rhubarb, burdock, dandelion with the deep tap roots, I use those for bioaccumulation of nutrients from minerals, in particular from deep in the soil. They bring those nutrients up into their leaves, and then when that dies back or I cut it back in their leaves, that gets mulched or composted and put back onto the surface of the garden. The trees and the annual plants can benefit from the nutrients, so they can uptake the nutrients. Sea buckthorn, I've got it everywhere on both properties, all along the perimeter here, all along the perimeter and throughout the garden around the cabin. And that's a nitrogen fixer. Also produces medicinal leaves and berries. Should be getting harvests, I would say, a year or 2 from now, and not going to get any this year. The yellow flowers, and we've got some red ones as well, are yarrow. That's another nitrogen fixer along with the Baptisia and the lupins. And that's why it's called a food forest and not just an annual garden or an orchard. It really is a full system, a full ecosystem that has all these components, from the ground up to the biggest trees. Anyway, that's it for this week. I know the videos haven't been really sparse lately, but they haven't been quite as diverse. Spring's always so busy, just getting the gardens going and weeding and planting, and then adjustments. But also this chicken coop's taken a long time. It's quite a project, and like I said, I'll be showing you that next week. But then once that's done, I can get back to basics, get back to the workshop and the cabin renovations, finish those up. Spend some more time hunting and fishing this summer and fall, and preserving a lot more of the food, and be back to my normal type of video, I would say, coming up, and for the rest of the year once the chicken coop's done. Anyway, make sure you check in next week. I think it's pretty cool. Build that chicken coop. I'll show you the whole thing. Probably two versions, one long version, one like time-lapse version for impatient people. And then, yeah, can't wait to show you what I'm doing next. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you back here at the homestead.